What's up, money growers? Jacob back here with another video, coming to you guys to talk about something today that's very important around the topic of money and topic of finance. So this is gonna be one that's a bit more broad. This is more where I'm really gonna ask for your opinion and ask for your feedback, because sometimes I like to just do these where we can sit down and just talk about money in general and economics and things like that, and your personal finance and how it relates to your life. Because money touches pretty much just about every area of your life, whether people like to admit it or not. It really does. So guys, go ahead. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so, because I want to see you do well. And next time you come back here to the channel, you're going to have more money. So as we jump into talking about this and talking about money and really parts of your life that are basically dictated by money or controlled by money. But when I say controlled by money, who controls your money? You. That's the beauty of it, right? So as we talk about this, let's talk about, say, 5 different areas where money really does play a huge factor in the quality of life you're going to have here on this planet and your time here on Earth. So the first one we'll talk about is, having a better place to live, okay? Because that can be a huge factor with the money you have. I mean, you have so many more choices of places you can live and where you can choose to rest your head at night when you have more money coming in and you have more income, whether that's through, extra income from your job, or just, maybe you've worked at your job a long time and you've worked a ton of overtime and you've saved up money or you've invested well, whether that's, you've taken on investments that are lower risk or maybe higher risk, or maybe you started your own business and, you just grinded your ass off for years to get it stable, and now the business is doing well and you've got all kinds of employees and, you're getting to enjoy more of the fruits of your labor from that. Because, when you have the ability to choose where you want to live, I mean, that's huge, because, say if you're going to send your kids to public school, you can move to a better school district, for, a better life for yourself and your kids. Or you can send your kids to private school. You can homeschool your kids, right? You have all kinds of options when it comes to, having the money to be able to do that. A lot of people who don't have that money, they just have to depend on their local public school to educate their kids. Also, when it comes to where you choose to live, you can be in obviously a safer neighborhood. You can be in a nicer neighborhood. Some of you watching this probably grew up in bad neighborhoods. Some people grew up in bad neighborhoods and they're like, I'm never going back to that. That's part of the reason they do well, is because they're like, I'm never going back to that. They say, if I'm going to have, a family, I'm never putting my kids through that, or they just don't ever want anything to do with it again. And they just want to be in either middle class or upper class neighborhood. And that's, for some reason, that's a big driving force into why they work the way they do and why they chose the path they did, because it was painful growing up in such a bad environment. They're like, I don't ever want to go back. So you can choose a safer neighborhood. Also, this is one that's big, and it makes me think of Hurricane Katrina when I think of this, but this could be any kind of disaster. Heck, being from California, maybe I should think of the fires and natural disasters. But think of if a natural disaster is coming. You can actually handle that better, because, like say when Hurricane Katrina was coming, and if you were living in East Texas or in Louisiana or something like that, those areas that get lots of hurricanes, or you're down in Florida or California with fires, and there's a situation like that is getting really bad. I mean, if you've got the money, then you could really pack up the family and be like, hey, this hurricane's coming in, or these fires are getting really bad, and you can just up and go somewhere for weeks if you need to. You could say, hey, we're taking a vacation, or hey, you're going to rent out a cabin somewhere, or you guys are just going to go, maybe you stay with some other family, but nonetheless, you've got the money to just pick up the family. There you go, we're flying here. Hey, hop in the car. We're going to drive here and we're going to rent out someplace here for a few weeks or a month or more, depending on how bad the disaster is, and you can get out of there sooner. So, just something like that can actually protect you. It can help protect you from a bad situation like that if you have the money and you prepare ahead of time. The next thing we'll talk about, the area in your life that money is a major factor and really controls, is your socioeconomic circle. This plays off nicely from the first one about where you choose to live, or having the neighborhood. Because that can set up your kids to have a strong socioeconomic circle. You can set up your kids to be where they're in an environment where they grow up around people whose families either have businesses, or they're investors, they're entrepreneurs, or they've got well-paying jobs, and people who think differently from the majority of the population, people who think with a mindset of success. And part of the reason they are where they are is because they think differently, is because they've made different choices. So, your kids can, really set them up to be around lots of positive influences. It won't be a perfect world, but it could be a very positive world for them, from childhood all the way through to adulthood. Also, when you talk about socioeconomic circle, for some people this is really big, is for them to be able to leave a legacy behind that reaches many people. So whether you do have kids and you want to leave that legacy, some kind of legacy for your children or grandchildren, or others who never have kids and they just want to leave a legacy for all the people they've ever helped, or employees they've had, or customers they've had, or both, or just people's lives they've been able to touch and affect in a positive way. For some people that's huge, and that's a big part of why they build out their socioeconomic circle the way they do, is they just want to be able to reach and help as many people as they possibly can. So your socioeconomic circle is a big factor in that. Also, your socioeconomic circle, you think of people you have access to. So like with healthcare, think of the healthcare you can have access to, with specialists, if you need a certain kind of surgery, with treatments, medicine, things like that. You can afford better healthcare. And heck, some of the people in your socioeconomic circle are probably going to be in the medical field. Some of them probably will be medical specialists on certain things. And you can go right to that person and talk to the doctor directly, when you're at your kid's baseball game or whatever it is, or when you have some kind of meeting or get together or whatever the case is. You probably have some people in the medical field that you go right to and talk to them and ask them questions, or people who are in the legal field, and you can just talk to them casually at parties and events, and you basically get advice from them while you're chatting away with them. Also when it comes to your socioeconomic circle, you can help others more. You can support causes that you find important to you. So I listened to one guy. Actually, this would be the third point. I'm sorry. So the third point is you can help others more and support causes. Excuse me. So the third point is you can help other people more, and that's one of the things that's really cool is when you can do something like that. You could pay people's rent. You could pay for their medical treatment. Maybe you have like nieces or nephews that their parents are putting them through private school, and their parents are struggling to afford the tuition. You could help pay for their tuition for your grandchildren if that's the case. You can donate to charities you like. And I listened to one guy the other day talked about how he had a friend who was in trouble, and he was able to give his friend $5,000 and be like, "Don't worry, bro, it's just a gift," and that was it. He had the money to give, and he makes, I think he makes a couple of million a year. He said before, but I forget. But nonetheless, guy had $5,000 to be like, "Here, man, take this. I know you're struggling right now." Because that's his friend. That's someone he's known for, however many years, and he wanted to help out. But he has the ability to do that. Think of how few people have the ability to do that for someone. It's a pretty impressive thing to be able to do that. So when you have that kind of resources, you can do that kind of thing for people. Now, the fourth one we'll talk about here is kind of like I touched on earlier, actually. So you never know when a disaster or pandemic is going to strike. So, and this doesn't necessarily have to be a natural disaster. It could be a natural disaster. I consider like a hurricane or something like that. But think of a disaster like in your family. Think of a disaster where someone important in your family passes away. It could be one of your parents passes away, or a grandparent. If you are a parent, it could be a child of yours, and things like that where you're going to be grieving for a long time. If you have money in place, you have investments in place, a business in place, things that can operate without you being there, you're able to grieve better, and you're able to grieve more and grieve throughout the process because everything else financially is already taken care of. You don't have to worry about funeral costs because you've got money to take care of it. You don't have to worry about having to take sick time off work, or paid time off work, or things like that to recover and have and grieve, because you've already got the money to take care of it. Money's really not a factor. Right? Your emotional pain is going to be a big factor, but money's really not a factor. So, in that regard, it's just one less thing you have to worry about if something tragic does happen. If someone does get cancer or whatever the case is, maybe they are having they're having a long stretch of medical problems where, other family, because they're working their regular job, they can't be there that often. But, you have some more flexibility because you have systems in place. And maybe, if the bills are tight, maybe you help pay with those bills, There's just a lot you can do in a positive way. I think doesn't always get a lot of attention. So that's just one of the big things to think about is when it's a disaster or something along those lines, you can help out other family. You got a big house. You have family who lives in a part of the country where they get hit with a snowstorm or some kind of disaster. You can say, "Hey, come stay with us," right? So that's another big thing you can do. And then the next thing we'll talk about is the fifth one. We'll close this out on a really positive note here, is you can do great things for your own family. So, like I said, it could be in a bad situation where, family members got really high medical bills and they don't know how they're going to afford them, and you can help with that. But also think about it. You could take your family on vacation, right? You could take your immediate family, extended family, some siblings on vacation, go do something fun like that. Think how fun that would be. be able to take someone in your family, hey, just the two of us, we're going to go on a vacation. Or hey, just all the siblings or all the cousins, we're going to go somewhere. Hey, I'm going to take mom and dad here for this. How awesome would that be to be able to pull out that money, a few $1,000s or whatever it costs and be like, hey, I'm going to do that. Or hosting family events at your place, maybe because you got the biggest house, right? You've been busting your ass for years. You got the biggest house. And when it comes time for holidays, Thanksgiving or Christmas or 4th of July or any get-together, barbecue get-togethers over the summer, everyone's like, oh, no, we want to go to so-and-so's house, right? Because he's got the biggest house. You got the most space. You got the best setup to host large groups. I mean, how awesome would that be to have something like that? So just something to think about, stuff that I like to think about. And I want to share with you guys. So I did want to hear your comments about this, your thoughts about this. Maybe there's something I missed about money, in your life. And it can be very important, but that doesn't, people, I think, when they think of things that money controls in your life or they have a bad relationship with money, they see it as a negative. But like I just shared here, you can do a lot of positive things with money. You can do so many positive things. The money is neutral. Money doesn't care if you do something good or bad. The money is just going to go wherever you tell it to go. That's all it's going to do. So you can do a lot of good if you have the money to do so. I mean, you can do a lot of good just as the person you are today. But when you have extra money, some of the things like I gave examples of, you're able to actually help in bigger ways oftentimes. So that's one of the positives. That's one of the really cool things. So yeah, I want to share that with you guys. So again, I appreciate you guys watching. Please subscribe if you haven't done so yet. I hope you're doing well. I'm happy to have you here on this channel. And until next time, keep growing your money.